Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the ninth grade, where everything is a controversy, as long as the mean girls say it is. There were thousands and thousands of pages dumped onto the docket with the public seeing them for the first time in the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni case last week. That was ahead of a hearing on the motion for summary judgment that I attended in person in New York on Thursday. With all the celebrity text coming out, you've seen a lot of legacy media and social media headlines about Taylor Swift, about Matt Damon, about Ben Affleck. But there's so much to go through that there's still a lot to kind of dig into and discover here. One thing I'm now seeing is this headline about a comment Justin made about Britney Spears. Now, the misleading thing about this is that he didn't actually make the comment at all, yet here is the PR spin in action. The first thing I thought when I saw this was, holy ad placement. Like, Jesus, do you not have enough? This is obnoxious. Like, I didn't know what Trip was before, but now I know about it and I want to actively avoid it. So congrats. But let's take a look at this headline. Justin Baldoni's creepy Britney Spears comment exposed in Blake Lively and co-star Jenny Slate's unsealed text. And this is a really shit job done by the person who wrote this article. They should feel ashamed of that. So rather than, read this person's writing, we're going to go ahead and look at the actual source, which is an exhibit on the federal docket of text messages between Blake Lively and Jenny Slate. Now, I'm not saying that the things they're saying here didn't even happen, because when you read them and you think it happened exactly how they're describing, it's like, that's not that bad. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm saying what they're complaining about right here is overblown and dramatic and stupid. So the first thing that's mentioned here is Blake says, "You were standing there for the thing he said to me when he said I look hot. I said, that's not what I'm going for. And he said, okay, sexy. And then he made a joke once he asked if he crossed the line. And I said, yes, that he must have missed the sexual harassment meeting." Now that comment right there, the hot comment or the sexy comment, the director commenting on the character's wardrobe, that is like one of the major bases for her sexual harassment lawsuit, which in and of itself is a disgusting insult to people who have actually been through sexual harassment in the workplace. This is a creative environment. Looking sexy or hot is part of the creative process. If you don't like that, if you can't handle that, that's fine if you're that uncomfortable with it, but do not take a job working on a film based on a book with a lot of smut in it. Especially where the distributor says they want to sex up the movie. And she, in her own messages, is saying how important it is for things to be sexy in the film. To be sure, you can look no further than her own Exhibit 43, which says, in her own words, "The sexiness in this film and the marketing, I'm sure, is critical to its success." But let's take a look at this Britney Spears comment and whatever else they had to say that they described as perfect examples of oversteps and unwanted comments. This is Blake to Jenny. "And then later when you said you used to stare at Britney Spears' midsection for hours before you finished and said what an athlete she was and how remarkable she seemed as a young girl, he jumped in and said, 'Same,' and giggled. But then I rolled when we just looked at him." So he said one word, "same." What she said was that she used to stare at Britney Spears' midsection for hours. And they're making it sound like he said something creepy when he was just sitting there, like, trying to participate in the conversation. And he really didn't say anything wrong. Mind you, he's younger than Britney Spears, so whenever they were growing up and they're talking about this, like, he was a teenage boy. So, of course, he stared at Britney Spears' midsection. And it's not like he brought it up. These people would say stuff like this around him all the time, and he would make the most minor comment, and they would freak out and say he was a harasser. And then, of course, when they gang up and they're acting all mean girl, like, "Oh, ew, you're gross and creepy, go away," to him, and he dare roll his eyes at that behavior, whether or not that actually happened, I don't know. They think that he has wronged them in some way, some profound way that warrants this hundreds of millions of dollars lawsuit. Really, like, your complaint is that a director rolled his eyes. A director rolled his eyes on the set. May you never work for some of the bigger name directors in Hollywood. Anyways, in regards to the wardrobe comment and the Britney Spears comment, Jenny Slate says, yes, exactly. Those are two perfect examples. The first one, an example of a total overstepped and unwanted comment. The second is such a great example of how now I just feel inclined to shut down because I don't want to invite any other comments from him. It's just gross and stupid. And I would agree with this. You should shut down in that regard if you don't want those kind of comments. If you don't want somebody to participate in a conversation with you where those kinds of comments are made, which, by the way, he didn't make the comment. She did. Then you should not talk like that around them. You should not invite that. That is, you are literally inviting that. They're exploiting this kind of Me Too sentiment, which is ridiculous, and they're watering it down for women who have actually experienced sexual harassment in the workplace or outside of it. For example, when a woman wears an outfit with a short skirt or something like that, she's not inviting men to touch her or to catcall her. It's not an invitation for strangers to be creepy and invasive. If a woman's wearing an outfit on set that is part of a wardrobe that's supposed to be sexy, and then a male or even a female co-star were to like message her creepy things after work and make sexual advances, that's a problem. But this is ridiculous. If you don't want to talk to someone about certain subjects or in a certain way with a certain familiarity or comfort level, don't have a conversation with them about these things. You are literally, if you're having a conversation with this person involved, inviting them to respond to your comments on this subject. And the fact that they use this as a perfect example and that people are running with this while other women came forward too, based on shit like this, is so damaging and so disgraceful. Justin Baldoni in that moment committed the high crime of being someone that Blake Lively and Jenny Slate didn't like, and therefore everything that he did was seen as a nuisance or an offense. Everything that he did was interpreted through a lens that was overblown and disproportionate and not at all grounded in the reality of the situation. And there's one more text in here that is actually a perfect example of what I'm saying, and I'm going to get to that, but I do want to point out some more stuff about the Britney Spears, Justin Baldoni thing that's been going around in the Daily Mail and other places. Britney Spears did a guest spot on Jane the Virgin when Justin Baldoni was one of the lead actors on that show. And Justin, growing up at a time where Britney Spears was somebody who was like idolized by a lot of people that age, of course was like, oh my God, Britney Spears, you know what I mean? And so he did what a lot of people might do in that situation. Maybe you're socially awkward, maybe you're not. Honestly, in a situation where somebody who's been like an icon is in front of you and you're meeting them for the first time and you're so excited about it and like worrying about everything you say and do. He gave her a hug, had a short interaction with her, and then immediately did what a lot of us would do, not everyone, but a lot of us, in which we overanalyze everything that just happened because, oh my God, what if she thinks I'm weird now? You know what I mean? What if she thinks I'm weird? Did I do anything weird? It's Britney Spears. She's a big deal. I want her to like me. You know what I mean? And Britney Spears obviously never said anything about it. It was not a big deal. It's just something that in a moment like that where there's a lot of heightened social awareness and awkwardness or nervousness, it's like something that you overthink for a moment and then it's over. It's done. Justin said, I know she was a fan of the show. We were shooting and then a few of us who weren't in her scenes came to watch one of them. Baldoni noted he had been a huge Britney Spears fan in high school, adding what adolescent boy wasn't. He said he and the Grammy-winning pop star had exchanged social media messages in the past, leading him to think she would react differently to him than she did. Because I had tweeted her and she had tweeted me back, I went up to her thinking we were friends, but we weren't, Baldoni explained. I gave her a big hug and I think I scared her. And again, that's him analyzing the situation after he just went through something that made him extremely nervous. Which the other cast who were around obviously didn't think anything bad had happened because they were laughing about it. Baldoni added that his fellow cast members were laughing at the awkward exchange, and he wondered, did I just harass Britney Spears? Which is just something that people say when they're joking around. That's not actually harassment. He was quite obviously describing the scenario with a lot of jest. But just to remind you, none of that actually matters. That was not really an incident. No one ever reported that. People are just picking up on it now because of this mention of Britney Spears and Blake's messages to Jenny Slate. Like that thing that happened on Jane the Virgin, not actually a problem. If we can't be a little self-deprecating in our humor and overanalyze things socially, then a lot of us are fucked. So back to Blake Lively and Jenny Slate. Once again, this is one of their complaints about Justin Baldoni being creepy. They were complaining about their Airbnb situation, their living situation. Jenny Slate at least wanted a better place to live, I guess, and Jamie Heath gave her the money for it, which she complained about because she said that Jamie Heath said something about valuing the sanctity of motherhood and family when he gave her the money, which is, I guess, so offensive to her. But this text message is going back to the Airbnb situation where she and Blake were talking with Justin and maybe Jamie. I'm not sure if Jamie was there or not at the moment, but Jenny says, I'm truly so sorry that I made the remark about our tiny bedroom and our shitty Airbnb. I think back on it now, referencing that it was bad for sex and just realizing that this is way inappropriate to say. And I hope that I know it wasn't the settling for that kind of remark. And I also now, knowing that you guys sleep as a family, it must have just seemed like such a bummer judgment. I'm so sorry. I definitely have no judgment on it, but I'm sure it seemed that way re our bed. It's just what works for me, not at all trying to say it's what we should all be doing. Wish I had not said that. And as you say, we move on, but I do want you to know that I remember it and regret it. So sorry if I made you feel upset. So Jenny Slate makes a weird comment about her Airbnb in the tiny bedroom just being bad for sex, right? And she's saying this in the workplace with her coworkers. She is now apologizing for it, saying, I know I shouldn't have said that. And she, wants to say sorry and move on, which in and of itself is fine. There's nothing wrong with that in and of itself. But we need to look at the context here and why this is so hypocritical and ridiculous. Blake says, oh my gosh, no worries at all. I mean it. At all. You do not need to revisit anything that's been said. That is so generous of you to say this, but so not necessary. Please don't stress about any of it. The truth is, dynamics are different with women and men, and there's a safety with women that there isn't with men. Also, they had screwed you on your living situation and you had to ask for something better. So casually making a joke about sex was like a subconscious way of playing to your audience. If the guy who could authorize moving could empathize, then you and your family would be out of here. It all tracks. What? They gave her the money to go to a better place because she didn't like the Airbnb she had because she had a child. And they were saying, we want you to feel safe in your living environment with your kid. It had nothing to do with sex. And so she's saying, well, of course you can say stuff about sex because that's the only way a man would give you what you want. And that played no factor into her getting what she wanted. And you say playing to your audience, but if you have these guys who you're talking to in conversation, and you're constantly making these remarks about sex or staring at people's bodies and stuff like that, and then you act like they're disgusting human beings for saying like same or just participating in the conversation, not even saying anything about sex, not even really adding to the conversation, just participating, just being there, present in the moment. And you think they're creepy for basically doing anything other than breathing and standing still. Like, this is bizarre. And when Justin made that comment about the wardrobe being hot or sexy, and it bothered them so much, he told them he totally gets their feedback. He understands it will not happen again. And it didn't. And yet they wanted to burn him at the stake for that. That wasn't good enough. But here Jenny Slate is apologizing for making an explicit comment about sex and her own personal situation. And she's like, oh no, don't worry about it. It's fine because you're a woman. But if you include men in these conversations you're having about sex, and they just sit there and say like a word or two, you don't then get to demonize them for just being present? Listening to you when you're talking to them. She's asking them for something. She's saying, this is what I want because this is bad for sex. And here's what Justin Baldoni did in that conversation, which they think is so bad. Blake says, also, in the moment, it actually wasn't you that was strange. It was Justin. You didn't know we all sleep in bed together. He did. And when you said that, he said, oh yeah, terrible for sex. So Jenny Slate said, this is bad for sex. And Justin said, oh yeah, terrible for sex. We don't even know the demeanor that he said it in or anything like that. This is stupid. And this is what these women are using to try to platform themselves as some sort of Me Too victims. It's a real insult to people who have actually been through shit. She says, it was so odd that he said that instead of just laughing like I did. Dude, you don't get to dictate how the people you're talking to respond to the conversation you're making. That's not how that works. He's always trying to be liked, and so joining makes sense for him, but it was still something I clocked on his part. Yeah, this is what I was saying earlier. They clearly don't like him. Like, they just hate him, so they see every little thing that he does as some sort of offense, or it's weird, or it's creepy. Like, he didn't do anything wrong here. There is an astounding lack of accountability between these people who were bringing up conversations about sex and sexiness, and Jenny Slate herself talking about gawking at a woman's body, and then being creeped out because the guy who was a teenager growing up idolizing Britney Spears like everyone else around him said same to having looked at her midsection. And this is what the media is marketing as exposing Justin Baldoni's creepy comment about Britney Spears. It wasn't even his comment. It was hers. The way the media handles this stuff is so irresponsible because people see those headlines. They don't really read into it. They don't really look into the situation at all. And then they think, look, other women came forward. Well, this is what the other women who came forward had to say. She made a comment about Britney Spears' midsection, and Justin Baldoni said same. Do you really think that qualifies as a victim of sexual harassment? Because I don't. And I doubt the law will. I don't know if this will move forward to trial or not, but that's not going to play well in front of a jury. Good luck. All right, thanks everybody. That's all I got for now, but I appreciate you watching. I will be having a members only stream this afternoon. I'm thinking probably 3 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to show you how to find it if you're a member of this channel. If you're a Patreon member, you're going to get a notification through your email that will give you a link to get access to that. It's going to be an unlisted stream. And if you're on Patreon, you can also just go to the Patreon page and you'll be able to see the post with it. If you're a member on YouTube, here's what you need to see. You're going to go to my YouTube channel and then you'll click the post tab right there. You'll see a post comes up that will have a link in it, and it'll be a members only post. So not everyone will be able to see it, only if you're a channel member. If you want to become a member on Patreon or YouTube so that you can see those, you can always find a link to that here in the description of all my videos. So just go to one of the live streams or one of the videos on my channel, and then let me move my head. My God. How do I? Oh, that's not what I want. That's not there. Okay. And you can see a link to Patreon or to become a member of the channel. I also have my social media links in there and a link to my Twitch channel. Or if you're on YouTube, right next to the post tab is the membership tab, and you can click there and become a member. All right, thanks everyone. I'll be seeing you later. Bye.